Welcome to all. I am R. Sokma, Assistant Professor of English, JJ College of Arts and Science, Pudukkottai. There is a poetry paper for first MA English Literature students. It's a continuation of first unit, John Donne poems. In the previous presentation, we tried to analyze the poem Good Marrow as a metaphysical love lyric. Now, let us turn our attention to the canonization, one of Donne's popular poems. Here, the poet uses the religious ritual of canonization, evaluation of sainthood, to speak of sensual love. The lovers, by their constancy and the intensity of passion, get canonized as saint of love capable of working miracles for lesser lovers. The poem consists of 5 stanzas of 9 lines each. Each of the stanza end with the word love. The last line shows a gradual evolution towards canonization. In stanza 1, we have, so you will let me love. Stanza 2 says, see and I do love. In third stanza we have, prove mysterious by this love. In stanza 4 we have canonized for love. And in the final stanza, a pattern of your love. Let us analyze the poem stanza wise. First stanza of the poem. For God's sake, hold your tongue, and let me say in my palsy or my gout. My 5 grey hairs are ruined, fortunate, fouled. With wealth, your state, your mind with arts improve. Take you a course, get you a place, observe his honor or his grace, or the king's real or his stamped face. Contemplate what you will approve, so you will let me love. Summary of first stanza. The poem begins on a note of impassion and exasperation. The speaker wants his lady love to keep quiet, so that he may speak of his love. If she is bent on speaking, she could scold him for his bodily ailments like the palsy or gout, or she could blame him for growing grey hairs. Or she can also speak of his misfortunes. She could improve her social conditions by amassing wealth, or improve her mind and her skill level by learning. She could cultivate favorable relationship with nobles or even with the king, or try to earn more money. She could do anything, whatever she pleased or liked. The only thing is, she should allow him to love her. The poet builds up contrast between what one should do in lover's kingdom and what one can do in ordinary world. The stanza contains a series of imperative constructions to convey what she could do, but he wants her to be silent and accept his love. Second stanza of the poem. Alas, alas, who is injured by my love? What merchant ship have my sides drowned? Who says my tears have overflowed his ground? When did my colds a forward spring remove? When did the heats which my vein filled add one more to the plaguy bills? Soldiers finds wars, and lawyers finds out, still litigious man, which quarrels more. Thou see and I do love. Summary of second stanza. The second stanza contains a series of interrogations in the format of rhetorical questions. He says, no one is injured by his love. He has not caused any tempest or typhoons by his sighs. He has not caused any floods through his tears, nor has he through his coldness prevented the arrival of spring. The heat of his passion has not caused any epidemic or mortal disease. Everything goes on as usual. Soldiers get battles to show their heroism, and the lawyers continue to argue cases for the litigious man. Their love has not upset the rhythm of social life. The poet reveals in hyperbolic speech there is in them an ironic comment on the empire outside lovers' kingdom. Third stanza of the poem. Call us what you will, we are made such by love. Call her one, me another fly, we are tapers too, and at our own cost die. And we in us find the eagle and dove. The phoenix riddle hath more wit by us, we two being one are it. So, two unnatural things, both sexes fit. We die and rise the same and prove mysterious by this love. Third stanza starts addressing the public. They could call the lovers what they will, but it is love that has made the lovers what they are. Lovers are usually compared to flies, no harm about it. They could also be compared to tapers that burn up to provide light. They could also be described as the eagle and the dove. They could be the hunter and the hunted alternatively. In fact, in their union, they are an annotation of phoenix riddle. The bird burns itself and is reborn as a new bird from its ashes. Love to works, that's miracle. The union of lovers is a sort of death and resurrections. They die and are reborn as one soul in two bodies. They melt into each other. Gender difference melt away. In the sense, they are reborn as each other. This is the mysterious alchemy of love. The stanza represents the highest watermark of metaphysical poetry, especially in its representation of phoenix riddle. Fourth stanza of the poem. We can die by it, if not live by love. And if unfit for tombs and heresy, our legend be, it will be fit for verse. And if no piece of chronicle we prove, we will build in sonnets pity rooms. As well a well-wrought unbecomes the greatest asses as half-acre dooms, and by these hymns all shall approve as canonized for love. Summary of fourth stanza. Stanza 4 begins with a paradox that stems from the image of life and death and rebirth presented in the previous stanza. The speaker says, we can die by it if not live by love. Such death may not be worthy of a costly heresy or tomb. The lover's story may not be a fit one for poetry. It may not form part of any historical record, but the lovers can build beautiful love chambers through sonnets. After all, the ashes of the great are as at home in beautiful urns as in a large memorial that covers many acres. The song celebrating their love will elevate them to sainthood. The stanza represents the lovers shading immortality and achieving immortal sainthood by the intensity of their passion and its constancy. Stanza of the poem, and thus invoke us, you whom reverend love made one another's hermitage. You to whom love was peace that now is rage, who did whole world contrast and drove into the glasses of your eyes, so made such mirrors and such spice that they did all to you epitomize a patterns of your love. Summary of fifth stanza. In the last stanza, we have the invocation to the saints from the lesser lovers. The two saints of love have found their refuge in each other. For them, love is peace and harmony. The lesser lovers, it is a rage. The saints of love have compressed the whole world into the love for each other. So, earthly lovers should benefit from a pattern from the holy ones. The final stanza is the post-canonized phase of the ideal lovers who can work miracle for lesser lovers. Conclusion. The poem is typical of metaphysical school of poetry. The very title, the canonization, shows how the poet is using religious language to celebrate human sensual love. The imagery of the poem reveals how disparate elements are put together to surprise the reader. But all these apparently contradictory elements are fused together in the alchemy of intense poetic emotion. We start asking questions only when we are outside the poem, released from Donne's poetic hypnotism. Thank you to one and all to attend my PowerPoint presentation.